What's up, holdovers? We're back with another episode. I know I just had an episode come out, I think 2 days ago. I couldn't wait. I was too excited about this one. Today, we have the honor of being met with James Landry Hébert. And I said it right because I'm from Louisiana, so it's Hébert for anyone who says Herbert. Because I know I've seen interviews with you where people have said Herbert, and I'm like Hébert, Hébert, and I knew that. But yes, he's an American actor. He's been in 1833, which I've been trying to watch for a few years. Shame on me. He's also was in the most recent season of Euphoria. So yes, if you wanted to introduce yourself, James.
Oh man, I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been credited as everything from Hebert to Herbert to Sherbert to Schubert. I mean, even when I did an episode of Treme, which was my first guest star role, they credited me as James Herbert, and I'm like, Treme should know. Like of all shows, they should know. But yeah, it's been a ride watching Euphoria land with people and getting to talk with LSU. Just feels different, you know. That's home soil for me.
Yeah. What part of Louisiana are you from?
Well, originally I'm from Lafayette. That's where I was born. My mom's family's from around Acadiana, and my dad's family's from just outside of Baton Rouge. And so, yeah, when it came time to pick a school, I think LSU, it was UL or LSU or USL for the older fans watching. But yeah, I think the seed, you know, for acting was always there in a way, but LSU is where I really started taking it seriously. And I found theater there, and suddenly it wasn't just a dream, you know, it became a craft or like a discipline, you know, it became something I could put all this Louisiana life I've lived into. And yeah, LSU was huge for me. You know, I was just a kid trying to figure out what to do with all this energy and story and intensity, and theater just gave me a place to put it. You know, I learned just ensemble, and I learned listening, and, you know, I learned that acting was not just pretending, you know, it was behavior and preparation and truth.
Mm-hmm. So then how was it as far as like when you got to LSU? How was that experience? Because I just finished my freshman year. And so it was humbling when I got there as far as to like, okay, college theater level. So how was that for you when you got to college and started to see how theater was working there?
Oh man, well, you know, I started out general studies, like I said, not knowing what I want to do with my life, but always loved music and movies and entertainment, and just thought that would be cool. I was also managing a band in college, and thought maybe I wanted to work in the music business. And they didn't have much besides mass comm and theater when I was there. And there was this theater teacher, Preston Davis, who was just this cool surfer guy from California that was getting his master's and teaching the lower level theater classes. And man, I just thought he was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, on his skateboard, wearing all these wild clothes, and you know, cruising past the Indian Mounds down to where the black box theaters are, and I wanted to be just like him, man. I started riding my skateboard to classes and just wearing, like, you know,
hair out, sunglasses.
yeah. And I think the California dream might have been born there. And then I think taking that dream out west, I realized, you know, you start to think about what separates you from others, and how to stand out amongst the crowd. And I feel like sometimes it takes leaving home to appreciate it. But I think that authenticity and getting back to my roots was key. I mean, my first agent in Baton Rouge, first thing he said to me was, "You got to lose the Cajun accent." And and now out here in Hollywood, they're like, "What's that accent? I love it."
Yeah.
I mean, my family thinks I lost the accent back home, and then out here, everybody thinks I still got it. So even when I'm trying not to do it, I feel like I can't help but put a little Cajun hot sauce on it.
Yeah. So I'm laughing because you just described my current acting teacher at LSU right now. He's like, I look up to him. He's actually from, I think, Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
But he dresses like this surfer dude. Like it's really funny. You would never guess he's from New York, but the way you kind of seen that guy is kind of how I see my teacher, Jack. Shout out Jack, by the way. But yeah, I love him so much. I've experienced acting in such a new level because I've only done theater for the past 6 years, and so actually learning about screen acting was such a different thing for me, and it felt uncomfortable. I just didn't. I didn't enjoy being really put on to actually do stuff. I got my first lead, I think, earlier last semester, and I'd never been that responsible for telling a story, and that is the scariest part to me is telling the story wrong. And so it was scary, but it was extremely fun, and I'm very grateful for that. So have you been in any theater plays at all? Have you like acted in theater stuff?
I haven't done a whole lot outside of like black box theater in the earlier classes at LSU. I started out, like I said, general studies, and then I made theater the minor, and my last year I made it my major, but I was so busy managing bands and thinking maybe I wanted to work in music.
Yeah.
And then when Katrina came, we decided to evacuate with the band to Nashville and record an EP. And so I always joke that managing a family band made acting seem like a good idea, but I just felt like, my future was in their hands, and with acting, like it was me. I was the business, and I think I learned a lot of. I think a lot of the marketing skills that I was learning at LSU when I was getting involved with some mass comm stuff was very useful, not just for the band, but for me as an actor now. And so now I'm marketing myself, and I'm the business, and you get out what you put into it, and so it's up to me now.
Yeah, that's very reassuring to hear. I'm not in mass comm. I'm majoring in theater and film, like I said, but I recently just got a sales internship here at KLSU. And I kept thinking, am I wasting my time? Because it's like, okay, I can be going audition for stuff. I could be sitting here writing plays and stuff. And instead of that, but I think that anything you learn in life, you can use with film. And I think that's the most beautiful thing, and that you can use it in any aspect. So even if you like worked at an ice cream shop for 10 years, okay, you may get a role where you're playing someone who worked at an ice cream shop for 10 years, so it comes easier. So I think that there's constant like easing of my anxiety on that, because I constantly am like, am I wasting time? Should I quit my job? Should I just go all in? And so that's very easy to hear from someone who's actually out in the industry. Yes, I wanted to hop in with a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you've acted in about, from what I researched, 4 Western films, I think is what I found. I don't know if that's correct.
Shoot, probably more than that at this rate.
Probably more. I was looking at your IMDb, and I was like, I think it could be more, but I'm gonna go with 4 just to be.
I probably did 4 like the year before last, like just in that year. But I was also coming off 1883 and getting into Horizon, and then a lot of indie westerns came my way, and I'm getting ready to do another one with Ang Lee, so I'm pretty excited.
Oh, well, I wanted to ask, because since you've been in so many westerns, I always have this thought of mine where it's like, am I going to be trapped in a certain type of role? Back in high school, I was constantly the dad or the old man. That was the 2 things I got. And at first I'm thinking I'm overthinking, but I had a director tell me directly. She says, Karen, I made you the old man because your voice, it's so velvet, it's so perfect. And I was like, okay, but like, give me something new. And so it started to bother me. Do you ever have thoughts of like that bothering you as far as getting so many Westerns? Do you think you feel trapped at all, or is it something you truly enjoy?
No, I feel like actors bring up typecasting and getting trapped a lot, but I always thought of it as the tip of your spear to break through. And once you've done enough of those, people are going to want to see you do something else. I'm finally getting to the point where a lot of directors that I love are like, man, I want to see you play a good guy, or get the girl, or, something different. And so, yeah, I just keep doing what works until, somebody wants to give me the opportunity to do something different. But it's a visual medium, it's a vocal medium as well, and so a lot of times it's just kind of based on how you look and how you sound, and then like you were saying before, just any life that you've lived that you can bring to it, I think is just going to make it that much more authentic and just enrich the story and your character and whatever you're doing. I first started riding horses in New Roads, Louisiana, just outside of Baton Rouge, where my dad's family's from. And they have horses and cows, and have been into cutting horses forever. And so I think that's where it all started. And once I made my way out west, I lived in Hollywood for the first couple of years, and then I shot Westworld out here where I am now, and it's a little cowboy community that's still connected to the business. It's a lot of wranglers and stuntmen and just cowboys. And I realized you could work as a ranch hand and save a lot of money on rent and be around horses and have horses and further develop those skills. And I think after Westworld, I embellished a bit as to my horseback experience. And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be the real deal on and off screen. Yeah. And so I made that my life. And now I'm riding and roping and cutting and earning buckles, and it's getting me a lot of Westerns. And one of my favorite stories is that we were shooting Euphoria at a ranch near mine. And so on light days, I would ride my horse to set and Sam
cool.
Levinson. Yeah. It felt like just bucket list check, legendary kind of moment. And everybody loved it. But Sam was like, Zendaya tried to get away on horseback. Could you chase her down on horseback? And I said, well, I could chase her down and rope her. And a month later, it was in the script, and I'm chasing her down and roping her and dragging her back to the ranch. And meanwhile, Marshawn Lynch is trying to shoot me up the whole time. And it was just, of all the of all the Westerns I've done, somehow Euphoria just gave me one of the wildest rides I've ever had, and just got to do the most cowboy stuff I've ever got to do on screen. So that was a dream come true to do it, especially in that arena.
Mm-hmm. I seen, speaking of horses and things like that, I seen that you had a lot of roles where you were dealing with weapons, or like you did some stunt stuff. How was that, and how was preparing as far as that kind of stuff? Because I dealt with, in one role, I dealt with a fake weapon, and like the characters were supposed to be scared of the weapon, but I was genuinely like shaking. I knew it was fake, and I knew it was a cold weapon, but like in my head, I'm like, this is weird. So how was that? How was getting comfortable with it?
Oh yeah, these days you can never be too careful, and I think having experience with firearms and knowing how to check them yourself is extremely valuable, and could also help settle those nerves. If you know this gun, it's clear, you're good. But it's tough because you're playing make believe, but you're trying to make it real and live truthfully in that moment. And so sometimes it works better than others. Sometimes you lose yourself in the moment, but ultimately it's better to be safe. And so I feel like those scenes are tough because you want to go there and just kind of black out into the character. And but I think in those moments with weapons and stunts and safety, it's I think after you get a little experience under your belt, you realize that better to be safe than sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And out here in this community, there's a bunch of stuntmen and trick horse trainers, and so I got my work cut out for me, and get to practice a lot of that stuff off camera so I can do it on camera. But I don't think I'd be doing this Ang Lee movie if it wasn't for, namely the Wrangler on Euphoria went on Ang Lee, who asked him, I need an actor who can really act and can really ride. And he was like, James Herbert, he said, oh, James Herbert, he just wrote Zendaya on Euphoria. And I'm like, how long we known each other? You still don't know how to say my name right? Because he does all the big Westerns, 1883, Horizon, now Gold Mountain with Ang Lee. But he threw my name in the hat. And I think being able to do the stunts was a requirement there. And I don't know if I'd be there otherwise. So it's, but I love physical acting more than anything because it's, you got the lines, the scene, you're trying to do the homework and throw it all away and just be in the moment, which is easier said than done. But with the physical acting, it's easier to be in the moment. You know what I mean? And you're like, you just got to go in and get the bad guy or rob the place or whatever it is in the text. But I enjoy that stuff more than just line back and
Yeah.
forth tennis, because it just it takes the pressure off and kind of allows you to be more in the moment. You just got to land that physical thing, and usually there's better acting there.
Yeah, I was an extra. They were filming a movie called Ali Clark with Viola Davis here in Baton Rouge.
Oh,
Uh,
Allie Clark. I was
mhm.
I was so close. I was the second choice for the Cajun character in Allie Clark.
Oh, I would
And
have
man,
seen
when I
that.
got that audition, I was like, nobody could do this accent like me. I mean, I was a little young for the role. They ended up going older. But that was a tough one because coming off of Euphoria and reading for this major supporting role opposite Viola Davis, I was just like, this is my moment. This is meant to be. And there's been a lot of those over the years, but with my background being from Louisiana and Cajun accents are such a tricky thing, you know what I mean? I feel like people don't really know what to do with them, and unless you've grown up around it and lived that life, it can often come off cartoonish. And so I thought for sure I was the guy, kind of like me on a horse. I'm just like, there's nobody better. You know what I mean? You got to own that confidence. And then of course they ended up going a different direction and I was crushed, but that is part of it. So I'm so jealous you got to be on the set of Allie Clark, but I'm so happy for you. I'm proud of you. And just reminds me, when I first got started doing extra work and just kind of fell in love with, this set family and just being on set. And, I mean, there's really nothing better than just that. And I could tell you stories all day about standing in for Brad Pitt or Cole Hauser and how I got my start, but I want to hear about Allie Clark.
Yeah. So yeah, I got I think there's a casting company in New Orleans called Caballero Casting. I've been
Yeah, I know.
signed up with them for years, actually. I think back when Sinners was happening, they casted me and then they called me and uncasted me because they're like, hey, you're not old enough. And I'm like, okay. So they uncasted me, but they called me literally like it had 2 years, 3 years had passed, and they called and they're like, hey, do you want to be an extra on Allie Clark? I'm like, shoot, yeah, like come on, let's go. And so I went and did it, and I mean, for my first actual on-set industry moment, I'm so grateful for it. For like forever grateful for the experience and just I was meeting so many people. I knew that I was there to, of course, so I like to appreciate the art of just watching because that's what I was doing. I'm there to be quiet and just watch, and I enjoyed that. But hearing other people's stories was so cool, and it also made me more patient with myself. I'm a really big person who's like, hurry up, you're getting older, you're 19 now, you're gonna be 20 then 21. And so I'm constantly thinking that, and so talking to people about it like just eased it for me. And so yeah, I had such a good time just being on that set and just meeting people. I just met so many like cool people, and I never thought I can like befriend like someone who was like 80 years old, but I was befriending someone who was literally like 60 years older than me. And I was like, this is such a unique thing to have. And I was just so grateful for everything that came with that. I will forever cherish that.
I'm so glad you did it and got to be on a big set like that. That's incredible. And yeah, just you talking about it reminds me of just a lot of the local talent who does extra work in between gigs and the people you meet on set. It's one of the best parts of it. You know what I mean? These movies just bring in so many different people from different walks of life that you would not know otherwise, but you're all together on the same mission trying to make this thing happen. And yeah, I just love that feeling. And and I think I've been chasing it for the last 20 years. But when you talk about being 19, I'm like, don't worry about a thing. I didn't decide I wanted to act till much later than that. I feel like I was at least in my early 20s when I started thinking about it.
Mhm.
And it's funny. I feel like I was taking theater classes at LSU, but I'd go home and watch like Entourage on HBO and be like, "Oh man, that wouldn't that be cool? What a life, you know?" And so me and my buddies sort of fancied ourselves our own little entourage, um, and yeah, somehow I'm here doing it now on a HBO show, so it feels really full circle. But really, I feel like post LSU theater, I got my start in casting, working for Liz Coulon,
Mhm.
Coulon Casting. Also, I believe Ryan Glorioso Casting. He was her assistant before he went off and started his own company. And then I went in for an audition one day, and she asked me if I had a day job, and I thought, well, damn, was it that bad? And she's like, no, I'm offering you a job as my assistant because I just like you and your vibe, and I think it really legitimized me in the industry before I had a big resume. I was working with casting, in casting, reading with veteran actors, just learning what it's like to be in a room, what worked, what didn't, how to stand out. And a lot of times I would, and these veteran actors were smart because they knew they were going to be reading with me in the room.
Mhm.
And they liked reading with a young actor who was hungry and wanted to do a good job, even though he's just feeding you lines off screen. And I would often get together with them before their audition. We'd have coffee, run the lines, kind of have all the beats down. And then once they were in the room, we both knew how to play it, and I could kind of help set them up for success, and kind of cherry pick from these veterans along the way. So yeah, when I hear Brent Cavallero, I'm just like, oh man, that brings me back. I feel like he might have put me in one of my first movies, like playing a vampire or something, and it was like a vampire tribunal, and I think my only line was one word, and I just said guilty.
All right, holdovers. We had a minor moment of Zoom being Zoom because I know about Zoom from back during COVID when I did middle school, all of middle school online. So yeah, I knew that was gonna happen. I'm not really shocked. I'm just frustrated because Zoom just be zooming. So yeah, we're just gonna hop back in with the podcast. My next question for you was, what was your favorite movie you've seen this year?
Oh man, that's a good question. I feel like I don't watch enough movies. Like I'm so busy just
Mhm.
either wearing my cowboy hat or my Hollywood hat and just chasing the dream that sometimes it's hard to sit down and really watch something, especially, this day and age with streaming and TV shows. It's been a lot of Taylor Sheridan. I'm working on the Snowfall spinoff, so I've been watching a lot of that. Of course, doing Euphoria, I was watching all of Sam Levinson's work, like
Mhm.
The Idol, for example, which I loved. I mean, I feel like people bash it online, but I just think Sam Levinson is brilliant and often is misunderstood. But Sinners had a big year last year, and
Mhm.
that was hands down one of my favorite movies. And what's her name? Avi Kaufman, who put me in Gold Mountain with Ang Lee. She was the casting director on Sinners, and I wish I knew her then because I couldn't help but watch that and want to be part of it. It was just so dang good.
Yeah, that was I knew it was gonna be good, but just watching it and just seeing how it came together was just such a a cool thing. And I love how it was I wouldn't say an unoriginal idea, but it was like, vampires, that was the baseline. And it's kind of like, what can you do as a writer past, okay, vampires? And so I thought it was a really cool way to go about telling that story and to even tell more than just a vampire story, but to tell so much more about race, about everything. And so it was. It was super cool. I think the way I felt watching that, because I couldn't act in, is gonna be how you feel about Allie Clark. So, we're
Yeah.
gonna both have that moment together where we felt the betrayal. I don't even know how I felt. I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, this is cool. I
Yeah,
guess.
feeling left out of the party for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I love a good genre bending film, but to be able to do it with that kind of depth and history is I think a testament to Ryan Coogler
Mhm.
and everyone involved. I mean, old boy playing twins, that's a dream
Yeah.
for an actor, you know what I mean? And I felt like they were both so different, and you could tell he put a lot of thought into it. So hats off to Michael Jordan as well.
Yeah, so he was amazing. I wanted to recommend you a movie. I don't know if you've heard about it, but this kid, Curry Barker, he made a movie called Obsession. Have you seen anything about it at all?
I've heard of it. The name sounds familiar, and I feel like people are talking about Obsession, but I haven't seen it yet. But it sounds like I should.
It's really good. So first, let me first tell you, this movie was made with a budget of 740 K. That was all they gave this kid as his first, big film. And so it grossed like $120 million. Like it has
Wow.
grossed so much money. It's been so successful. And pretty much what happens in the movie is this guy has a crush on one of his friends. And so he gets a One Wish Willow, which is an actual thing, but it's this thing you like get, you make a wish and you break it. And he pretty much just bluntly wishes for, can you like me? Can you like me more than anyone in the world? That's what he says. And so he says it wrong. You have to word it correctly. And so it doesn't turn into her liking him. It becomes obsession, which is kind of why the movie's called that.
Oh wow.
Amazing movie. They did horror. I don't even, horror doesn't fully scare me, but I'd say they did horror in such a different way that you can't prepare. You can't be like, oh, the music's getting scary and it's getting darker. Let me hide my face. You're just like, what just happened? Like you have to watch. And
Oh
so
wow. I gotta watch it.
yeah, I say really, I recommend that. It's such a good movie. I'm very inspired by him, and I like to write stuff, and I've never written horror, and so I'm realizing how hard it is to make it scary because when someone's reading it, when you pitch it, you want it to be scary when they're reading it too, and so I've been struggling with that. But have you ever thought about dabbling into like writing or directing at all? Is that something you've thought about?
Oh, for sure. I mean, especially anybody who works with Taylor Sheridan, I think we're all trying to take a page out of his book. And yeah, these days I feel like you got to wear a lot of hats and be writing, directing, producing, creating opportunities for yourself because a lot of actors will complain. Otherwise, you're just kind of waiting around by the phone, hoping that perfect thing finds you. And I think, these days it's like, the gatekeepers aren't what they used to be at the studios. It's like with technology, you can make your own stuff with internet and social media. You can get it out there. And yeah, a movie like Obsession is so inspiring for anybody who wants to do it. But yeah, I was adopted by a native couple in South Louisiana and raised on the Chitimacha Indian Reservation. So I was the only non-native to attend the tribal school there,
Wow.
and definitely shaped my relationship with the world. Even though I'm not native, I think it just taught me sort of interconnectedness of just everything: the land, the water, the animals, the people, just the whole ecosystem. And so of course I want to tell my story about growing up on the reservation. And I think sometimes it's hard to, I mean, I'm always going. If I'm not doing actor stuff, I'm doing cowboy stuff, and I got to tend to the horses. And sometimes it's hard for me to like just sit down and focus and
Yeah.
be quiet and write. And then also when you're, tapping into past trauma, which I feel like is the best stuff when it comes to
Yeah.
art. Subconsciously you'll find excuses not to. So I'm still struggling with that, but I think, in my head, I was going to go from Euphoria to Allie Clark to making my movie Paleface. And it doesn't always happen on the timeline that you want, but but yeah, I think, endurance is key, and just sticking it out. And,
Yeah.
I don't really know how to do much except for movies and horses these days. So at least I'm doing what I love, and yeah, there's no going back to a day job or a real job or anything like that. I think the horses sustain me while I'm chasing the dream, and yeah, I'm inspired to want to do more writing. And over the years, I've come up with a lot of ideas that I just can't quit. And one of them I was actually able to pitch to Sam Levinson on set because Daryl Brick Gibson, who's just an incredible human, he plays Bishop on the show.
Mhm.
He was sort of fascinated with me growing up on the res, and was like, "You should tell Sam about it." And it's me, Zendaya, and Sam in that empty pool with the bonfire scene in between takes,
Oh
and I'm
yeah.
picturing a pale face. And then I had this other idea about sort of a fish out of water cowboy idea that I thought he would gravitate to more, and so I started pitching that, and he was like, "That's a movie. I like that a lot." And I'm like, "Well, you can have it, or you can give me A24's contact. Let's get this thing going." So
Yeah.
I got a few things up my sleeve that I would like to, at the very least, produce.
Hmm. And how was that move to California? Because I know my older brother lives in California, so we go there every few years just to go visit, just to go see him. It's always a culture shock when I get there. So how was it actually having to get up, and leave this LA for that LA? How was that? Any stories?
Um, yeah, I mean, it definitely took some getting used to, but the weather was one thing I definitely didn't mind. And I think coming up watching shows like Entourage, I was just like, oh, this is it. You're kind of living the dream. And I was lucky to, not really knowing anyone out there before or having any family in the business. After I stood in for Brad Pitt on Benjamin Buttons, I stood in for Cole Hauser, who plays Rip on Yellowstone, in the show called K-ville. It was like post New Orleans, post Katrina cop show in New Orleans, and and got to be good friends with him and his hairdresser. And I was like the local connect, even though I was just a stand-in. I think the hairdresser would run lines with him at night, and he was like, "Why don't you tee up the kid to run lines with you?" And so I went from being a stand-in to running lines with the lead actor, and then just kind of recommending all the local restaurants and stuff like that. So I was the local connect and sort of made myself useful that way. But we all got to be pretty tight. And when I moved to LA, I was the hairdresser and his wife. His wife worked for Lady Gaga, and they would often be on the road with Gaga. And so he was like, "Why don't you move in with us? You can take care of the dogs while we're gone." And that's how I was able to make the transition and keep my rent low, and sort of have a day job without having a 9 to 5 situation that would keep me from auditions and things like that. So so grateful to Dre and Sonia for essentially taking me in, and there were some months when I couldn't pay rent, and they were like, "It's okay, don't worry about it. We'll just keep a tab for you." And when I booked my first series regular role on the Taken series for NBC, first thing I did was write them a big fat check for all the rent that I never paid, and that just felt really good. It felt like, okay, you finally got a little money in your pocket, and you can get out of the red and in the green, and just save your shekels, and hope for another season or the next one. And I've been a series regular like 3 or 4 times, but it's all been a one season regular. And I'm just like, man, if I could just get 2 seasons of a show to like stack up some cash, and I think that is the next goal for me. But I think a lot of actors who get kind of stuck on shows, if you will, they're the lead good guy, so they don't die and have to get another job like me.
Mhm.
they're often envious that I'm able to bounce around from project to project and work with all these great directors and do all these different characters. But and it's a lot of fun. And I think, in my 20s and 30s, that was more that had a little more shine to it. And but now I'm like, man, let me just get on something that goes for years. Like I'm ready to sell out.
Get
Let's
on
go.
Grey's Anatomy. Oh my gosh,
Uh,
they just keep
uh,
going.
yeah, the grass is always greener. So, just, get what you can and do what you can and hope for the best. But, you know, ideally, that I feel like that cushion and that time that I'm talking about that it would buy me, I think would be the time for me to write Paleface, my story about growing up on the res and start developing more projects instead of just having to bounce from job to job.
Well, I would watch Paleface, so you should definitely get on that so I can watch it and promote it.
Hey,
Um,
I
but
appreciate it.
there's this common thread. I've talked to a few actors before, and so this common thread of like the community of film and like people getting help. You talked about them letting you stay and even sometimes skip rent. And so I've even had my most recent guest, Peyton North, was on, and he talked about how he went to New York, and he ended up meeting this lady. She owned a hotel, this really rich lady, and she's like,
Oh, wow.
just come stay. Just come stay.
Wow.
And it's just
Uh,
like I think that the universe is constantly rooting for you. And I know that doesn't always feel like that, but it's rooting for you and it's putting you where you need to be for that for some future moment. And I think that it's always so cool to see these circumstances where people are put like, oh yeah, okay, you were put, I know you stressed to get here, you made it. I'm gonna give you a break. And so I've noticed that kind of pattern because there is this big thing. I talked with Matt Bankston. He's actually in Los Angeles with you, but Matt Bankston's, I think he's part of the screenwriting something in Louisiana. And so I talked to him privately about, the fear of leaving Louisiana and how it's always like, it's this big deal. It really feels like this big deal. It feels like something, like you're doing something wrong. And so to sit there and hear you say and hear the people having similar things, I'm really, excited for the day that I, decide to say, trust it. Let me take my $10.50 and let me go up there to Los Angeles and see what it'll provide for me because it may be more than I expect. And I'm just, I love how reassuring this interview has been for me because it's always been. I'm a big overthinker, and so it's always like, okay, what can go wrong? How fast will I be homeless? When will I be broke? Who's gonna come and get me? All this crazy stuff. And
right.
it's very much so reassuring. And I wanted to talk about you and praise you as an actor first. You are a great actor. Let me first say, I looked at your reel and I did have a chance to watch Euphoria, of course. There's this rawness and realness about your performance, and I really appreciate that because I love one of my favorite movies is A Marriage Story, and it's because of how real it feels. And it feels like, whenever you can truly feel like, okay, the actor is not present of the camera there. You can tell, I can tell whenever they're present, I'm in a movie right now, especially as
Mhm.
women who watch comedies, comedy movies, they're aware that the camera is there. So that's why it's funny, they're aware of the cameras and that's what makes it cool. But
Right.
there's this naturality that you have, and it's very interesting to see. And it's just, I really appreciate an actor who can do that, especially to say you're from Louisiana. I'm so proud that you're from Louisiana. I'm proud that you're someone that we can say that's from Louisiana. Because something else I did upon doing research on you. I don't know if you know this app. It's called Famous Birthdays, and so it's just a bunch of like celebrities and their birthdays. And so I got on there to see if who would pop up for Louisiana because I had just thought about it. And so I get on there, and so I see Ellen DeGeneres. I'm like, dude. So I'm happy that we have you because I am not that big of a fan of Ellen DeGeneres. Uh,
Oh, dang.
I used to be a really big fan of her, but I just started to lose it. She was actually a big part of my life at some point. But I'm just so happy that you're a part of that for us. And as far as closing remarks, I wanted to say if there is anything you can tell to any aspiring actor from Louisiana or in general, what would you tell them? How would you say to motivate them and to keep them going as the industry is changing every single day?
Well, I mean, just to back it up to before you started giving me such generous props and maybe to connect it to your closing statement, I was going to say, man, you got me out here in LA now. So when you come out, you can come out to the ranch. I'll teach you how to tend the horses. You can save a bunch of money being a ranch hand and take a page out of my book. So you got some money here, and I feel like, the horses have been such a grounding element in my life. They don't really care what movie you're on or what director you've worked with, or they can just tell like your energy and what space you're in, so it kind of keeps you humble and also just keeps you it puts things in perspective that are more important. And, it's kind of more about your energy that you're putting out into the world. Um, but yeah, I think, the authenticity that I think you were sensing on Euphoria and a lot of characters that I played, but really like Sam Levinson, man, he finds what's alive in you and folds it into the story, and he kind of, I mean, I auditioned for Wayne, my son, in
Mm.
the show. We all read for Wayne, but he liked us both so much that he made it this father-son duo, and he started getting to know me and sort of writing for my strengths. And yeah, I gotta give props to Sam Levinson. I mean, it's just a dream for an actor when somebody like that is basically catering a role to you. You kind of got your work cut out for you. Um, but I always say if a Cajun orphan like me from the swamp could make it all the way out in Hollywood, I think anybody can. The odds were not in my favor, and somehow I just kept chasing what I loved with abandon, and 20 years later it feels like it's starting to add up brick by brick to be a strong foundation for a long career. But even Quentin Tarantino always said, once you make some money in Hollywood, buy a house there because you're there to stay. You're not going anywhere. You're going to be part of the business, part of the fabric for the rest of your life. And in time, that starts to add up. But rent's not cheap in LA and New York. It's not like Louisiana, and it's not really cheap anywhere these days. But I think, finding a day job or something to sustain you for the moments in between. And of course, I would recommend being a ranch hand and being around horses, and, saving on your rent, and then focusing on those opportunities when they come up.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast. I'm very excited about this. I can't wait to tell my film head about this because she's going to be extremely excited. But thank you so
Pleasure.
much. So thank y'all for watching again, coming in and watching my podcast. Thank you. Keep holding over, and I'll see y'all. Have a good day.